And it's time for Lefties Losing It. And they're not only losing their minds, their tenuous grip on reality and their moral compass, lefties are also losing their jobs. Painfully unfunny, low-rating, tedious, afflicted comic Jimmy Kimmel is off air indefinitely, perhaps forever, after his shocking remarks regarding conservatives, regarding Charlie Kirk and the alleged assassin.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
And if that wasn't bad enough, he thought it'd be a good idea to launch into a diatribe mocking President Donald Trump's grief for Charlie. Jimmy got hit with the karma truck and perhaps he should have listened to his own advice. Only last month, he was speaking with fellow tedious afflicted comic Sarah Silverman and decrying those on the left who are repelling people from the Democrats, repelling them by saying awful stuff. Look in the mirror, Jimmy.
It's the loud voices that scare people from saying what they believe and make you think twice about a joke or whatever, these things. And, a lot of their points are valid, but a lot of them are also just repulsive. And I mean, they repel people.
And during that chat, we found out just how demented these two are because they are still bleating about fleeing the country, fleeing Trump's America. What are they waiting for? Be gone, miscreants.
Well, a lot of people I know are thinking about where they can get citizenship. And
I do have Italian. I did get Italian citizenship.
You do?
I do.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, I do have that. And what's going on is as bad as you thought it was going to be.
Way worse.
It's so much worse. It's just unbelievable. Like, I feel like it's probably even worse than he would like it to be.
Probably, yeah. I mean, I do, every once in a while, I'll Google Trump regrets or MAGA regrets just to see all the people that I'm not happy that they're upset and but it makes me hope that maybe this will bring people together.
These people are divorced from reality. They're almost beyond parody. I mean, how do you even mock that? For the record, every poll of Republican voters shows that there is no regret, that Republicans are terribly happy with their man. And those two miserable moaners also said that Trump's America is so much worse than their worst fears. But they're still in America. They have all the money, all the resources in the world to live wherever they want, and they remain in America. Now let's hear from Kamala's former boyfriend, Montel Williams, who had this sick take on Tyler Robinson.
I don't believe he was motivated politically. I think this was motivated emotionally. I think this was a emotionally stunted person who literally, when I say it this way, just hear me, tried to defend his significant other, not trying to defend some ideology.
But although I do think there's clearly an ideological difference. So that's why I played about what they said about the family. I mean, the ideological difference that he was reacting to.
Now, the media lies and lies by omission continue, but every now and then they get called out. Listen here as Ted Cruz takes on Collins. Absurd claims that we have no idea why Charlie was murdered. The motives are unclear.
You said a lot there, and we don't have a motive yet. We don't know yet. We're waiting. Obviously, we've heard what the governor's had to say, what the FBI director said today.
Come on, we don't have a motive yet.
We know
we don't have a motive yet.
What's happening with?
Really, that's CNN's position.
I mean, from law enforcement,
he just happened
Senator.
to fire the gun in celebration. You can't tell the motive.
Senator, that's not what I said, and I said law enforcement hasn't laid out a direct motive. They've laid out a lot of evidence here of these messages and what
actually
the
they
shooter
have.
said to
They've said that
family
he was a
members
left-wing
and to
activist who
roommates.
hated Charlie Kirk.
Yes, an absolute lie on CNN. Authorities have been clear in telling us that this individual was a far-left radical who hated Charlie and the so-called hateful message he was spreading, i.e. the truth. But Caitlin was determined to be embarrassed again. Watch her double down by making objectively false claims.
I'm saying that law enforcement has not put a specific motive. You know that there's a difference of what they're putting in a legal argument than what you're talking about. And you're not even, we're not even arguing about the facts here.
What you just said is false,
Senator,
Caitlin.
No.
Caitlin, Facts. Hold on a second. Let me answer your statement, because what you said is factually
Senator, with
false.
all due respect,
law enforcement.
With all due respect, you're putting a lot of statements that I did not say, and I want to get back to. We just laid out the facts.
You
in the
just said law enforcement has not made out a motive. That is objectively false.
We just spoke to the Deputy Attorney General.
That is objectively false.
They have not said a concrete motive of exactly what it was.
And
They've laid out
CNN should
every
not be
evidence that we
engaged in
know so far.
misinformation. Caitlin, answer my question.
It's not
Have you seen the polling
Senator.
that shows the vast majority of Democrats believe this murderer is a Republican and a Trump supporter? Have you seen that polling?
Let me get back to my questions, though, Senator, because the question here
You're not going to answer that
was
question?
actually
Are you going to answer
what
that
you were
question?
saying
You
about
have seen that
investigations that you'd like to see.
So you're not going to
Senator,
answer
I'm
the
the one
question.
asking the questions here.
Yes, you are asking the questions and answering them yourself, Caitlin. Will we hear from Senator Cruz at some point, I wonder? Will he be allowed to utter a single sentence without Caitlin talking over him?
And the question...
No, we're having a conversation. I understand that you want to say things that are factually false, and then you don't actually want the facts. You don't actually want the facts laid out.
Now, former President Barack Obama thought he'd weigh into the Charlie Kirk murder and the debates about unity and extremism. Apparently, it's all Donald Trump's fault. Everything was fine under Barack. Just ask Barack.
We have to recognize that on both sides, undoubtedly there are people who are extremists and who say things that are contrary to what I believe are America's core values. But I will say that those extreme views were not in my White House. I wasn't embracing them. I wasn't empowering them. I wasn't putting the weight of the United States government behind extremist views.
That needs a swift response. Let's bring in host of Sarah Gonzalez Unfiltered on Blaze TV and VP of the Texas Family Project. Sarah, what is your response to former President Obama? What role, if any, did he play in the current political climate?
Well, Rita, thanks for having me back on. I would say that Barack Obama is known here in America as the divider in chief. I mean, he wants to talk about extremist views. He wants to paint a cutesy little picture of how he was when he was president. Let me remind you of some names, Rita. How about Reverend Jeremiah Wright? The chickens have come home to roost man that, of course, he made that remark shortly after 9/11. How about Louis Farrakhan, who the campaign had to, of course, hide pictures of Barack Obama and Louis Farrakhan together during the campaign because they knew that it would hurt him. How about Bill Ayers? A man whose home President Obama once visited to announce that he was running for office. This is the same domestic terrorist of this country in Weather Underground. I mean, these are extremist people Obama has always surrounded himself with. So it's very cute that he wants to play a little bit of revisionist history. Let me give you one more stat here, Rita. When it comes to racial division, which of course Barack Obama was great at, when it comes to racial division, when he was elected, America thought that race relations were good or very good. Overwhelmingly, the majority of Americans thought that. It was 70% of whites, 61% of blacks said as much. After he left office, it plunged to under 50% for whites and under 40% of blacks. So it's very interesting to watch Barack Obama, the divider in chief, sit there up on his high horse, living in Martha's Vineyard, telling us that he was never an extremist.
And this whole both sides argument, it is just so intellectually dishonest. It really is maddening to hear that, given all we've known, all we've seen. And the Obama administration was guilty of weaponising the Justice Department, various other government bodies to go after their political opponents, Sarah. And as you said, he personally championed the toxic doctrine of identity politics. The impact of that has been, well, it's being felt today. It'll probably be felt for decades to come.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, of course, we had the IRS go after conservatives under Barack Obama. They spied on Fox News reporters under Barack Obama. He, of course, was the one who spied on President Trump's campaign that we found out about later. Everyone called President Trump a conspiracy theorist because he said the Barack Obama administration is spying on me. It turns out he was right all along. I mean, this is a man who knows how to play dirty politics. In fact, I would argue that he was the one that was in charge of playing dirty politics under the Biden regime. And notice, Rita, I call it a regime because that's what it was under both Biden and Barack Obama. It is just really, really disgusting to listen to these people try to act like this type of political violence is happening on both sides. It is not happening on both sides. It is overwhelmingly not only happening on the left side, but it is also embraced by all of these left-wing lunatics. You have a poll that just recently came out from YouGov in the wake of what happened to Charlie Kirk, who was assassinated. He was publicly executed in broad daylight. And you would think if these people were serious, they would just take a moment to reflect on their own thoughts and their own hatred. And instead, liberals overwhelmingly said more than Republicans that political violence was ever acceptable. This should not be controversial. Political violence is never acceptable. And it is shocking to me that liberals can still say there are sometimes reasons for political violence. It always goes one way, Rita. There is no both sides about this.
Absolutely. And the left has got, the modern left, a violence problem. I'd argue it has a mental health problem. It certainly has a reality problem. You're in the thick of it. Like Charlie, you go into these hostile spaces all the time. Are you going to continue to do that? The risks are enormous.
Yeah, it's a conversation that I have had to have with my family and my close friends. And I mean, the reality is this. The left embraces this radical ideology because they think that it will shut us up. They cannot argue our ideas. They cannot argue our positions because they are arguing from a way of emotion, not from actual facts and statistics. So the only thing that they have left is, of course, violence. And so after talking with family and friends, and after talking with my good friend Jesse Kelly, who is, of course, a show host here in this country, he said he wanted to organize something for a bunch of us to go to Utah and all stand together where Charlie Kirk was, just to show that we are, in solidarity. And I thought about it, and he said, do you want to go? And I said, honestly, Jesse, I'm scared as hell, but we have to. I don't have another choice at this point. So I'm going to continue speaking out. All of the people I know in this space are going to continue speaking out. And if anything, this has just lit a fire under us to just remind us how important it is in this country that we have a civil debate, that we show everyone that we will not be silenced, that they cannot scare us into submission, because we know that that is the reason that they did this. We know that that is the reason that they're constantly targeting conservatives, not just with their hateful rhetoric, but of course with actual assault and, in this case, murder in broad daylight. And we can't be silenced. There's just no other option. So unfortunately, Rita, I just really don't have a choice right now. I have to continue speaking out even more boldly and even more so than ever, for Charlie at this point.
Sarah, tell me about how the left has dehumanized their political opponents. We've seen that in the past week. And yet they still persist with this, both sides, that this extremist problem is on both sides, that most of the political violence is being committed by the extreme right instead of the extreme left, when we know the reality of what has happened in recent years.
Yeah, I mean, listen, when President Trump remember, he had 2 assassination attempts on his life, one of which, of course, got him shot in the head. And after that happened, he walked onto the stage at the Republican National Convention to give his speech, and he had a bandage on his ear. And in that moment, he had his granddaughter, Kai, come on stage and make a very touching speech about her grandfather. And the day afterwards, the morning afterwards, again, you would think that there would be a little bit of self-reflection, a little bit of reflection from the left on what kind of rhetoric they were using that may have been contributing to all of the tension in this country. And instead of that, you had Whoopi Goldberg on The View going out there and telling people she didn't like the fact that Kai Trump went on stage and talked about her grandfather because it, quote, humanized him. So the left has been doing this for a very long time. Intentionally, the mainstream media has been intentionally dehumanizing us, using dehumanizing language, because if they can dehumanize us, they can demonize us. And if they demonize us, what comes next is totally justified in their minds. That is what they have been doing intentionally. They have been lying about us. They have been gaslighting us. And it really, honestly, I'm still shocked that a guy that I know that inspired me to do what I do is dead and was murdered in cold blood. But honestly, when you watch the increasing rhetoric and you watch the way that they've been amping it up and you watch the way that they have been dehumanizing us, it really shouldn't come as a shock to any of us that this was the end result of the decades of work that they have put in to deem us as evil and unworthy of living.
And yet you've got the left playing victim at the moment, Sarah. They're accusing their political opponents of cancel culture and impinging on their free speech. The latest one is online figure Destiny, who mocked Charlie Kirk's widow, Erica. It was just so disgustingly cruel. Now, he's been banned from Twitch, but I don't know, perhaps CNN will have him back.
I hate Charlie Kirk. I think he's actually a Satan spawn, but he's very, very strategically minded.
What do you think of all that, Sarah? Are the right now guilty of cancel culture?
Of course not, Rita. There's a difference between cancel culture and consequence culture. Cancel culture is when you intentionally go dig up someone's old posts from, they were 15, 18 years old, a kid, and try to use it against them, not using any of the context, any perspective of what society was like back then. Consequence culture is, of course, hey, if you are going to say something disgusting, expect society to act accordingly. And that's exactly what is happening in not just Destiny's case, but many of these cases. And, the rich irony here, Rita, is that if Charlie were here, he would be the one to be able to so eloquently explain to these people what is the difference between freedom of speech and freedom of consequences. Freedom of speech never meant that you could go out and spew whatever hateful rhetoric you want to spew and have absolutely no societal consequences for it. Freedom of speech is just your protection from the government so that the government is not censoring you. But of course, these people don't know anything about freedom of speech. They've never picked up a constitution, which is what Charlie was so great at expressing and explaining to them. So Destiny wants to talk all about I thought conservatives were about freedom of speech. I suggest that maybe he go back and watch some of Charlie Kirk's videos so that he can adequately understand what freedom of speech and what he is entitled to and what he is protected from. And you know what? Again, consequence culture will come for you. If you say disgusting things, expect people to not want to be around you.
Sarah Gonzalez, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you.